Hello and welcome back to Seagulls Central. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you're new here, thank you so much for joining the channel. And if you've been here before, welcome back. My name is MacDonald. As always, this is the place for your first and fastest, not always fastest, but hopefully best Brighton Hove Albion news, content, analysis, debate, discussion, community, all wrapped into one. If you've not already, please hit the subscribe button. It really helps me. If you're part of the 73% of people watching this video who haven't already subscribed, who regularly watch my channel but haven't subscribed, please hit the button. It really, really helps me. And it hopefully means that we can grow this channel even more, even further, even faster. We can do more exciting things and I can keep making these videos as consistently as possible. I'm very grateful you're with us. We are here in a big moment. Brighton doing quite a lot in the window at the moment for a window which a couple of weeks ago, I remember hearing the quotes from Tony Bloom. I think it was at Ascot maybe a couple of weeks ago, where he was talking about how actually, we've brought in a couple of signings, Tommy Watson, Buscagli, Coppola. That's us done. We're going to have a quiet window now. It's pretty chill. Since then, obviously we've sold João Pedro. I suppose that wasn't really what he was talking about, but we're now bringing in another signing. Brighton on the brink, on the verge of bringing another player in. We have a player travelling to Sussex, travelling to Lancing, to the training ground in the next day or so. Apparently he's on his way now for a medical, a left back, joining the club in a £20 million deal from the Belgian League, from Club Brugge. Let me read it out. So this is from a tweet from Tasha Tavioleri, who's quite a prominent Belgian journalist. I'd say within the Belgian football scene, one of the most reputable sources. It's also been reported by, is it like Tutto Mercato, which I think is an Italian outlet. Forgive me. So yeah, this is the tweet from Sasha Tavioleri, who is the Belgium journalist. Maxim De Cuyper, soon a Seagull. A full agreement has been found between Brighton and Club Brugge for a €20 million deal, plus bonuses. De Cuyper will sign a contract until 2030, so that's a 5-year deal, and medical tests are expected to be completed in the next few days. He's put a big green tick and he says soon a deal is done, and that's his view on it. I think he is a journalist for Mercato, and their report says very similar. They say that he's on his way at the moment for the medical, so it'll be interesting to see when this deal gets over the line. It feels like one that's come out of nowhere. I've not really heard any rumblings about Maxim De Cuyper. Sorry, I should have properly introduced him. Maxim De Cuyper, 24-year-old left back from Club Brugge, joining the Albion. I've not really heard any real rumblings about this through the summer. I presumed maybe a left back would be someone we need to strengthen. I'd certainly thought that right back was going to be one. Left back makes sense. Obviously, with the future of Pervis Estupiñán looking like it's up in the air, maybe this speaks to the future of Pervis Estupiñán a little bit stronger. We can get onto that later in the video. But also, with the deal for Valentin Barco in the last couple of days becoming permanent, that exit to Strasbourg becoming a permanent deal, we can get into that conversation as well. It seems a strange one from a footballing sense, a guy who wasn't really given much of a chance in the first team for Brighton, but I think there's more than meets the eye with that one. I think there were issues around behaviour, attitude, that kind of thing. And I think the club are very good in those situations at maybe cutting their losses early on, getting a decent sell-on fee with Barco and recouping the money they paid for him, probably 18 months ago to bring him to the Albion. So we are looking a little bit light in the left-back department, just in the sense that you'd imagine maybe Ferdi Kadioglu isn't an out-and-out left-back. Pervis Estupiñán likely to move on this summer by the looks of things, by reports that we brought you, that I spoke about probably about 2-3 weeks ago, maybe even a month ago, about Man United showing interest in him. So left-back does seem a position we need to strengthen. And this guy, Maxim De Cuyper, and I want to say it right, De Cuyper, De Cuyper. 24-year-old left back. Let me get into the key stats about him. So, 24 years old, 6 foot, plays for Club Brugge. Has played over 10 times for the Belgian first team, national team. Scored 3 goals since his debut. And his debut was literally only about a year ago. Last season, played pretty much every game in the Belgian league. Scored a few goals, got a fair few assists. It seems to me like he's one of Belgium's top performing left backs. He was in the Belgian league team of the season. It seems like in that Belgian league, he is one of the standout fullbacks. And it makes sense really in terms of looking for talent outside of the English league, in those leagues that Brighton operate in, kind of having to fish in different ponds, this feels like a deal that makes sense. We need a left back, go and pick the best left back out of the Dutch league, out of the Belgian league. Go and look at them and let's grab the best one. Which one fits the age profile? Which one fits the style profile? And from looking at this guy, I've done a bit of research. I've done an hour or so's research for this video. And this guy looks like he fits the Fabian Hürzeler system to a T. And I'll get onto that in a minute. So yeah, the one thing I like about what he looks like and the way he plays, just from watching kind of compilations and video highlights of him, is there's a few things, but one is his size and his gait. He's actually pretty tall. For a left back, he's like 6 foot. They say he's 6 foot. I think he looks taller than 6 foot. I would say he's probably about 6'1". He's quite not skinny, but he's got that kind of leanness to him, but height. And he looks like he almost would be like a central defender, or like a kind of, he's even got that kind of Matt Weaver kind of look to him in the way that he's got the curly hair, but he's also got the gait of quite a tall guy, quite lean. And when he moves, he's really quick. He gets up. He seems like he's got an absolute engine getting up and down that left-hand side. And he looks like he's a really, really creative player. All of the compilations are around not just his like goal line clearances, his tackles, but also really focus on goal scoring and assist making. So I'm going to go through like 3 or 4 key points around De Cuyper and what I think are the kind of standout attributes for and against him, and maybe what we can expect as Brighton fans. And this is purely just from the research I've been doing to go into this video. And we'll take it from there. So let's start with number 1. So the first one is actually, I think he's basically a playmaker from fullback. He looks like, and I hate to use this phrase, but he looks a little bit, style-wise and stats-wise, a bit like a kind of left-sided Trent Alexander-Arnold. And I'm not talking about ability. Like, I'm sure we've not signed the left-sided Trent Alexander-Arnold. But in terms of his stats and in terms of his style and in terms of the way he plays, it really looks like that. He's a brilliant player by the looks of things at progressing the ball through the thirds. So getting the ball into midfield, into forwards really, really quickly when he has the ball at his feet. Per 90 minutes last season in the Belgian league, so per your average game he was playing in, he was averaging 31 passes that were progressive, i.e. forward passes, into forwards, into midfielders. So per game, that's quite a lot of progressive passes. I think that says a lot about him. It says about he wants to get forward. He's someone who can help us build attacks. We're not just going to have to rely on the midfield and attacks to build attacks. He's someone who can really help with that. Ferdi Kadioglu also seems like a player who can really do that. Pervis Estupiñán, brilliant at that. But it seems like he's a really strong passer of the ball in terms of getting the team up the field. He's also obviously racked up quite a few goals and assists. I think it was like five assists last season, 3 goals. So he's getting involved in the play going forward. And when you see him, he looks like a marauding left back running up and down, but the fact that he's got that passing ability I think is really, really positive. It shows he's not just a runner, he's not just a headless chicken. He's got a real attacking mindset to him, and he's clear with what he wants to do, which is progress the ball up the field. So it's that thing, I think, of him being a defender who can create chances. He looks like he is a chance creating defender. Did I say midfielder? A chance creating defender. He's not someone who's just a kind of out and out sitting back and trying to kind of sit in a 4. It looks like he's the kind of player who could likely play in a 3 as well and get us forward and move us up the pitch. I mean, I know the Trent Alexander-Arnold comparison sounds crazy, but the reason I say that is just because of that progressive passing, the crossing, the way he gets the balls into the box, the way he's always looking to push the ball forward. I think it's really, really exciting for him. Point 2 is the fact that he looks like he's constantly on the move. He looks like one of those players with an engine just to literally run all day. And I think last season the stat was that on average per game he's running 10 kilometers. And I've had to just go and remember that stat because it took me a while to work out what it was. But on average a game he's running 10k, which when you compare that to actually his teammates in the Club Brugge side, that was quite near the top. He's one of those players who's constantly moving, constantly running. He's pretty quick at top speed. He was hitting speeds of like 31 kilometers an hour, so he's pretty pacey. He can get up and down. You often see him like bombing forward in his highlights. It's about getting high, getting wide, getting into the box. There's a couple of goals he scored for Belgium where like balls have been played from the right-hand side and he's heading it in the box as like an attacker, as a poacher, as a finisher. finisher. So I think that says he's not just a defender in the traditional sense. He's not someone who'll just pass us through the thirds. He also gets into the box himself. He's got an absolute tank. He's got an absolute engine. It looks like he always wants to be involved. If he sees an attack coming, he gets straight into the box. He gets straight involved in it. So I think that's something we can be really, really excited about as well with him. It also seems like, and I think this is why it's quite a good Fabian Hürzeler signing, is the fact that he looks like he's a really, really comfortable player with the ball at his feet. If you want to play dominant football, if you want to play possession-based football, he looks like he's kind of like a very, very suitable left back for that. He keeps possession really, really well. He doesn't get shrugged off the ball. Looks like he can beat a man to get himself out of trouble. His passing accuracy throughout the season, I think, was something about like 85-86%, which for a defender I actually think is pretty good when you consider the positions he's likely taking up. And in a game, he's averaging like 2 or 3 kind of successful dribbles per game, which I think, again, is pretty impressive. You know, there's attempted dribbles as well. He's the kind of player who, as we spoke about before, wants to move us up the field, wants to take players on. But it seems like with that kind of success rate of doing like 2 or 3 successful dribbles a game, plus a kind of like 85-86% passing accuracy and success rate, I think it shows that he is a player who is really comfortable at keeping the ball. He's not just one of those headless chickens who, God, nearly locked Lewis Dunk over there. One of those headless chickens who'll just like get up and down the pitch and is a bit aimless. He looks like he's really considered with his play as well. So I think that's really encouraging. One thing I would say is I think maybe he looks like he needs to bulk up a bit. I think he probably is the kind of player who is still growing defensively a little bit. And I think he certainly is in that mould of the modern fullback. You know, those fullbacks who, in that kind of Trent Alexander-Arnold mould, who love getting forward, love getting up and down, have a brilliant engine, brilliant crosser of the ball, great passer. But actually maybe that was the thing I was kind of saying, is like he seemed a little bit lightweight. But who knows, he's very tall, and I think actually what Brighton are doing this season, it seems like in the last kind of year or so, we've really built a side of like tall players, big, strong players. He looks big, he looks pretty rapid. I guess the only thing is he does look a little bit lanky, and like slender, I guess. So I think, obviously I'd need to make a judgment on that a little bit more, and it'd be good to get a kind of Belgian expert to kind of give us a bit more of a view on kind of what he is like. But he looks like a player who maybe isn't great in the air. With that said, that's what the reports were saying, that he's not brilliant in the air. However, with that said, I saw him score a great goal for the Belgium national side, like scoring a header, a really good header as well, header into like the bottom right hand corner. So I don't know. They say he's not a great header. Maybe it's like he's not a great defensive header. It also seems like he's a really good interceptor and really good tackler. A lot of his highlights that I saw were him making last-ditch tackles. I read a report that was saying that they think his tackling is not one of his strong points, which I think is interesting as well. And they actually made a point that they think sometimes he's a bit slow to react, so he can get caught up quite high on the pitch in moments and be quite slow to not get back, but kind of, I guess it's that thing, they were kind of saying it's that thing of like the classic attacking defender kind of gets caught out, which I think is understandable with the game he plays. And I think they were the kind of weaknesses that were spoken about, that kind of slight kind of physicality, needing to bulk up maybe a little bit, and essentially saying he's not great in the air and he's a little bit slow to react to kind of defensive transitions. I think that will be interesting to see. But again, only 24 years old, you know, coming into a new league. It looks like he's technically brilliant, a fantastic passer of the ball, progressive player, someone who wants to get you up the field. He can get involved in scoring and assisting. He looks massively energetic. He looks like he can literally run all day, which I think is a really, really promising sign. So, you know, maybe coming to the Premier League, he would need to toughen up defensively. He'd need to get better at 1v1 defending. We don't know that. But I think it looks like a really, really exciting signing. You know, a very similar mould in some ways to like Pervis Estupiñán. Obviously, Estupiñán a little bit more, you know, less marauding in the sense that this guy looks like he could literally run all day. You often see like Pervis sitting in a little bit while he's like a great crosser and linked up so well with Mitoma. Not necessarily someone who I think would be like running all day at left back. This guy maybe looks a bit different in that sense, but he looks like he's got that same attacking kind of impetus and flair that someone like Pervis Estupiñán has. And it looks like he can play in a back three as well. I think he really will. I think what it screams to me is that Hürzeler is going to be playing a back three next season. This guy looks like someone who's really well suited to a back three. He played a lot of games in a back three last season for Club Brugge, but also played in a four. Looks like a player who, you look at the stats, the key. I remember when Hürzeler joined Brighton, there was one key stat where it was like his teams averaged like quite a lot of through balls per game. This guy looks like he'll really suit that with the progressive passing. He can obviously play in like a 3-4-3 or a 3-5-2. He can obviously play in a 4-2-2-2, 4-3-3. He looks like he's a really good presser of the ball as well. It screams to me like a kind of a like-for-like Purvis replacement, but also it looks like we're going to be seeing a back three next season. I think, Van Hecker on the right, maybe Buscaglia on the left, Coppola in the middle, Coppola kind of stepping into midfield. De Cuyper's on the left-hand side, Kadioglu, maybe Veltman, Hinshelwood on the right-hand side as a wing-back. You can really see it now, and I can kind of see how this team is being built. And I do really like, to be fair, how Brighton and the recruitment team and Barber, Bloom, Weir are really supporting Fabian Hürzeler. I've spoken about it before in the doubts that I've certainly had, and I think at times we've all had around Hürzeler. But to be fair to them, it looks like they're not only going to back Hürzeler in terms of players, like we saw last summer, and the number of players and the price of players, but also the style of players. I think this summer the headline is that we're seeing a style of player change in terms of recruitment. We're really focusing on maybe that three at the back really suit his side in terms of progressive passing, in terms of pressing, in terms of adaptability, flexibility, centre-backs being able to play in midfield, getting more suitable left-sided defenders so that we can play that back three. I think this looks like a really good signing. And at 20 million euros, that seems about a kind of standard price now for just before their prime defender. We've seen Brighton pay that price a few times over the last few years. It seems like, a decent fee. You can consider the fact we've got Buscaglia on a free and Coppola for around 10 million quid. For a 24-year-old left-back who's one of the best left-backs in the Belgian League last season, the best left-back in the Belgian League last season. It seems like a very good deal, plus add-ons, probably going to be less than 20 million quid as a base fee. Let me just quickly read, because I've actually got some stats somewhere around kind of, these are just some stats that were up on Twitter, so I think it's quite an interesting one. So in terms of his expected assists, so in terms of the quality of chances he makes, he was in the 99th percentile for expected assists last season, the 97th percentile for progressive passes. That's what I was talking about earlier about, is the quality of his passing that goes forward, the 90th percentile for defensive duels. So maybe that goes against some of the readings that I'd kind of seen earlier around how he wasn't the best kind of in those defensive duels. That's really promising, in the 90th percentile for defensive duels and 85th percentile for crossing accuracy. So it again feeds into that progressive passing, attacking vibe to him as well. And then just listing all of these stats. He came first place in all of these stats in the Belgian League last season among fullbacks. Defensive duels won. He was number one of all fullbacks in the Belgian League. Dribble success rates, that was that thing I was talking about earlier around how he loves taking players on. He's really got those successful dribbles in him. Expected assists, shot assists, long passes, progressive passes again. I think I just said that. And average pass length. So he's doing quite long passes as well. So he seems like, I feel like we've painted quite a good picture of him. He's a player who loves getting the ball forward. He loves getting forward himself. He's got an engine on him. He gets the ball in the box. He creates chances. He's a decent interceptor of the ball by the looks of things. He's a decent dueler of the ball. Maybe not in the air by the reports of things, but we will see. It seems like a very astute signing, a very good signing, an interesting signing for Brighton. And one that I think really complements Fabian Hürzeler's side. I'm really excited to see this team next season going into pre-season. And it seems like this is one of those ones where it's come out of nowhere. I heard reports that AC Milan felt they were really close to getting him at one point a couple of weeks ago. And the Milan fans were really, really excited to bring him to the club. And I think if a team like AC Milan are kind of sniffing around you and there's excitement around a transfer from the fans, it shows you're probably a very good player. And I think, where does it leave the future of Purvis Estupiñán? Maybe that makes things a little bit clearer. Maybe the Man United move is on. Maybe that move to an elite European club will be on, where he can play Champions League football, Europa League football. Be very interested to see. Obviously, he won't be getting that with Man United, but you know what I mean. get that big wage increase as he turns 28, 29, Estupiñán. So I won't begrudge it. I think Brighton are in a good position to replace him now. It's going to be, again, a bit of a transitionary season. I think next season, we've got a lot of players coming in this summer. We've got players who've been out on loan. We've got judgments to make on players. I think now we've got a really big squad, and we are going to have to make some calls. I know players obviously reporting for pre-season. I think it was on today, Friday. I think some of them reported, and a lot of Monday, and then into the next week or so. But we're going to have to make a decision on a lot of players, and we're going to have to see a lot of loans and sales, I think, as well from fringe players, because we've got a big old squad. But hopefully this Maxim De Cuyper deal will be getting over the line. At the time of recording, there's been no bomber from kind of Ornstein or Romano, Fabrizio Romano, but we've had trusted sources in Belgium and Italy speaking on this deal. It sounds like he's on his way to have a medical. Let me know in the comments, what do you think? Does this seem like a player who's right for Brighton at this moment? Do you think we've got a good deal for him? Do you know anything about him? Is there anything I've not said that, from what I've been able to see, that I've missed out? Let me know in the comments. I'd be really interested to know. What do you think about the side we're building next season? Do you think we're ready to go and really challenge next season? How are you feeling about the way we're going to set up? Is it inevitable that we're going to be playing a back three? I would love to know your thoughts. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed already, please hit that subscribe button. It really means a lot to me, and I will appreciate it a lot. I will see you on the next one. And as always, up the Albion.